What's up, people? This is the third part in an ongoing series showcasing some of the hidden gems available on the Nintendo Switch. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, links to both of those videos will be in the description below. If there's a game you think I'm missing, I might have already talked about it in one of those two parts, so check them out afterwards. If you're new to the channel, I mostly make videos about single player games with a heavy focus on RPGs. But because I want to help as many people find something new to play as possible, I make sure to include many different genre games on this particular list. If you end up enjoying the video, hit that like button to help the algorithm spread this video around. So, with all that out of the way, here are 10 must-buy hidden gems for the Nintendo Switch, Part 3. Kicking off the list, we have Steel Assault. This action platformer was released for the Switch in 2021. It was developed by Zenovia Interactive and published by Tribute Games. You'll be playing as Taro Takahashi, a resistance soldier on a revenge mission against the dictator who lords over the Ashes. The game equips the player with an 8-way electric whip along with a jump, double jump, and a short dodge slide. Another mechanic is a zip line, allowing the player to move vertically, horizontally, and diagonally between elements or platforms. While the combat is definitely the main draw when it comes to this game, what made me interested in Steel Assault was the old school vibe it has. From the art style all the way down to the sound effects, almost every aspect of the game reminded me of old Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis games, and I really liked that. For some, $15 might be a lot for what will be at max a 3 to 4 hour game, so maybe wait for a sale if you can. However, if you're a fan of platformers that emphasize speed and an old school 8-bit aesthetic, Steel Assault is the game you've been looking for. Next up, we have Bad North. Released for the Switch in 2018, this game focuses on real-time tactics and strategy. When it comes to gameplay, the main goal is to defend the kingdom from the Viking invaders and guide the island's people to evacuate. Islands have different layouts, so each poses a different challenge. They are divided into multiple tiles and have houses with Vikings attacking from any corner, so your strategy must be well planned to get the opportunity to save the people from the enemy by protecting the houses. The Viking invaders will chuck torches into the houses, and if they burn completely, you won't earn any coins for those houses. Gold is needed to get upgrades for units and level up comrades' defenses, and you can also pick up items indicated on the map and add new commanders to your army. What I like about Bad North is how I can play in small chunks. As someone who's used to playing long RPGs and JRPGs or open world action games, having a game I can play for a quick 5 to 10 minutes is always appreciated. Now, on the negative side, many people have complained about difficulty spikes happening later on in the game. Also, the game has been criticized for a lack of depth in the gameplay compared to other strategy games, so keep those in mind when making a decision. With that said, if you're into real-time tactical and strategy games like me and can catch the game on a sale, Bad North is a nice little pick up and play game to add to your library. At number 8, we have Indivisible. The game was developed by the now disbanded Lab Zero Games and features platform-style action RPG exploration and combat mechanics inspired by Valkyrie Profile. The game focuses on two styles of gameplay. When in the overworld, the game will be played as a 2D action platformer, with the player being able to move left and right as well as jump at the beginning of the game, and you'll get more abilities later on to enhance traversal and exploration. When running into an enemy in the overworld, the game will seamlessly transition to an action RPG, and each character becomes controlled by a certain button. Pressing a button will move the character to the enemy to attack it. The buttons can be pressed in different orders and can be changed to different attacks by holding either up or down on the analog stick or D-pad. Funny enough, I actually hated the combat when I first bought this game because it reminded me too much of fighting games, which I didn't like much at the time. Now, with me being a fan of Street Fighter and the combat in the Tales series, I would probably like this game, and I think a lot of you would too. Next up, we have Grindstone. Being originally released on mobile, this puzzle adventure game centers around your player, George, killing monsters on a grid. George can move in 8 directions, up, down, left, right, and also diagonally. George has 3 ability slots which can be filled with unique powers, for example, a bow, which lets you pick one enemy off from around the map. George can only attack one color of a monster at a time, but if the player smashes through 10 monsters, a grindstone will spawn. This allows George to switch the color of the monster he's attacking, allowing him to chain together larger combos. Most enemies can be killed in one hit, but special enemies and boss enemies have additional health points that need to be depleted in order to defeat them. Also, over time, some monsters will become enraged, meaning that if George lands next to them at the end of a turn, they will attack him. Different levels have different requirements to complete those levels, such as killing a certain amount of enemies, beating a boss, etc. There are also items and treasures on the grid to collect, so focus on performing combos that will allow you to pick up some of those treasures along the way. Once the goal is complete, the player has a choice between either leaving the level through the gate or continue to fight to get more rewards. If the player decides to stay, the game becomes much harder as more enemies become enraged, making it difficult to make movements. If George takes 3 hits and depletes his health bar, the player loses all progress in the level, which makes staying longer a literal high risk, high reward situation. For me, Grindstone is one of those games that can easily become addicting, which it kind of did for a while. It was always satisfying to get a 10 plus kill combo, and I found myself constantly chasing after that. Not only is this game kind of addicting, but similar to Bad North, Grindstone is perfect for people who want a game where you can just jump in for 10 minutes here and there. While I personally think the game is worth full price, Grindstone is constantly on sale on the eShop for under $12, so if you can wait until then to buy it, I promise you won't be disappointed. At number 6 we have Cat Quest. This top-down action RPG was released in 2017 and is set in an open world. Leap into a grand adventure in pursuit of the evil Dracoth and your catnip sister. Explore Feline Guard's huge overworld map, risk life and limb delving into dungeons for epic loot, and lend a paw to a furry cast of characters and a flurry of side quests. The Gentle Pros, who are the makers of the game, have said that Cat Quest is heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, and Skyrim, and you can easily see that while playing. While the overall gameplay loop of getting a mission, fighting, getting experience, and better loot is fine, it's the overall charm of the game that I really appreciate. Whether it's the character designs, the music, or the humor, Cat Quest was just a game that was hard not to put a smile on my face. The game only takes about 6 or so hours to beat and is on sale every other week for under $5. So if you're in the mood for a charming RPG that won't take up too much of your time and offers an abundance of cat puns, Cat Quest has you covered. Starting off the top 5, we have Nexomon Extinction. This monster collecting game is the sequel to the original Nexomon and was released for the Nintendo Switch in August of 2020. Extinction is a return to classic monster catching games, complete with a brand new story, eccentric characters, and over 381 unique Nexomon to trap and tame. The world is on the brink of extinction as the mighty tyrant Nexomon fight for dominance over humans and monsters. Join the Tamers Guild and begin an epic journey to restore balance before all hope is lost. Similar to other games in the genre like Koromon and Temtem, Nexomon uses a stamina system where each move, depending on its power, takes a certain amount of it to use, and if your Nexomon runs out of stamina, it will have to rest to get some of it back. This mechanic makes these type of games more difficult, which I'm a strong advocate for. I always say that when it comes to monster taming games, the story and gameplay can be amazing, but if the designs of the monsters aren't good, who cares? Thankfully, Nexomon, specifically Extinction, has some of the best designs I've seen in a monster taming game, and I would say a lot of them look better than some you might see in Pokemon. The game takes about 25 to 35 hours to get through, so a nice chunk of time, and the game is frequently on sale on the eShop for $10. If you're a fan of games like Pokemon but want more challenging combat with a solid story premise to boot, Nexomon Extinction might be a game to check out. Next on the list is Have a Nice Death. The game is a 2D action roguelike which was developed by Magic Design Studios and was then published by Gearbox Publishing. You'll be playing as the CEO of Death Incorporated, a personification of death, as he fights against unruly subordinates. Sharpen your skills and sight through fast-paced hack-and-slash combat, utilizing over 70 unique weapons and spells you can find and upgrade to create devastating combinations. Gameplay mixes platforming with roguelike elements such as procedural generated levels and also permadeath. With an 81 on Metacritic, Have a Nice Death has seen favorable reviews, with fans praising its difficulty and satisfying gameplay. But if you're looking for less of a challenge, after your first death you can turn on what's called self-fulfillment mode, which can provide you with a more laid-back experience. Roguelike games aren't really my thing, but everything I saw from trailers and gameplay videos made me want to check this one out, and if you're a fan of the genre, Have a Nice Death seems like one of the best on the market right now. Jumping in at number 3, we have A Hat in Time. Coming out on the Switch in 2017, this platformer is inspired by early 3D platformers such as Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and Spyro the Dragon. The game centers around Hat Kid, an alien girl trying to get back to her home by recovering lost time pieces. You'll travel between 4 open levels which can be freely explored without time limits. The player can collect various items, solve puzzles, and use either an umbrella or a baseball bat to combat enemies. Like I mentioned earlier, the primary objective is to collect timepieces, 56 of which can be found in the game, which unlock additional levels as more are collected. After being defeated, the enemies drop currency that can be used to unlock additional challenges and purchase badges that increase Hat Kid's abilities. You can also collect yarn balls in each level, which can be stitched into new hats to wear that grants Hat Kid a different ability, such as a faster sprint or brewing explosive potions. Other collectibles include relics, which can be used to unlock time rift bonus levels, and rift tokens, which can be exchanged at a machine for bonus materials such as music remixes and additional cosmetics. Mario Odyssey is my favorite platformer of all time, and while on a much smaller scale, I get that same type of vibe from A Hat in Time. Running around in an open sandbox collecting coins and items and just exploring in general is something I love to do, and this game delivers on that greatly. Also, A Hat in Time just oozes charm and personality. Whether it's the music of each level, designs of the villains and heroes, or just the aesthetic of the game in general, there's a level of confidence this game has that's hard to go unnoticed. So, if you're a fan of 3D platformers like Mario Odyssey, Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot, first off, you should check out my top 10 platform games on the Nintendo Switch video, and after that, you should definitely add A Hat in Time to your Nintendo Switch library. Just missing out on the top spot, we have Child of Light Ultimate Edition. Originally released all the way back in 2014, this turn-based RPG will have you play as Aurora, a young girl from 1895 Austria who awakens on the lost fairy tale continent of Lemuria. To return home, she must fight against the dark creatures of the Queen of the Night who have stolen the sun, the moon, and the stars. At stake is not only Lemuria, but Aurora's true destiny. The turn-based combat in Child of Light is similar to the active time battle system found in some games of the Final Fantasy and Grandia series. The player can control up to 2 characters during battle and swap these 2 characters with waiting characters, but up to 3 enemies can appear during battle. If the player approaches the enemy from behind, the battle becomes a surprise strike, giving the player an advantage. If the enemy approaches the player from behind, it becomes an ambush, giving the enemy an advantage. The character Inoculus, a playable Firefly, is used as an in-game mechanic outside of and during battle. The player can freely move them to open chests that Aurora cannot reach, as well as shine his light on an enemy to slow it down or an ally to heal them. I love turn-based RPGs, but outside of gameplay, the unique art style of Child of Light is what stood out to be the most. I'm a sucker for aesthetic, and the game's watercolor design is really something people should experience. You can pause the game at any point and it looks like a beautiful painting. That's something I appreciate just as much as the fun gameplay, maybe even more so. While no cakewalk by any means, Child of Light's music, story, and aforementioned art design lead to a very immersive and serene playthrough that I think any RPG fan should experience. And at number 1, we have Night in the Woods. Released in 2017, this is a story-focused exploration game in which you play as a young woman named Mai Borowski, who recently dropped out of college and has returned to her hometown. Now living in her parents' attic, she discovers how much times have changed since the closing of the town's coal mines. She is forced to confront a horrible secret the town has hidden for decades involving not only the town's mine, but also the recent disappearance of her longtime friend Casey. The reason Night in the Woods is number 1 on my list is almost solely because of the character named Beatrice, or B for short. She's one of 2 characters you can choose to hang out with, the other one being named Greg. Picking either one of them will lead to story and gameplay sections, but with dramatically different tones. While hanging out with Greg leads to more upbeat and lighthearted fun, choosing to spend time with B, as I did, led to a lot of emotional topics and discussions. Without spoiling too much, hanging out with B leads to her and Mai having to deal with their fractured relationship caused by Mai leaving her small town for college and also seemingly discarding it on a whim. B had dreams of going to school but had to stay in town to help her dad, which is where the resentment for him and also Mai stems from. Mental health, loneliness, family drama, and deep regret are all issues tackled in this game, and a lot of topics and conversations had in it still sticks with me to this day. Now, if all that sounds a little too heavy, you can always pick to hang out with Greg instead and go cause some chaos across town while still having a message about having to grow up and also dealing with complacency and being stagnant in life. And that right there is what I love about Night in the Woods. It has something to say, and it doesn't apologize for what it says or how it says it either. Very few games leave a lasting impression with me after I played it, and this one is on that short list of games. So, whether you're looking for a story involving some mischievous fun or a story involving 2 friends helping each other deal with mental health issues, Night in the Woods is going to introduce you to some amazing characters and deliver a story that's going to stick with you well after you've seen the credits roll. And that's all I got for you today, guys. Did you find some new games you want to check out? What hidden gems would you recommend on this play? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't checked out parts 1 or 2 of the series, links will be in the description, or you can click the link on the screen. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.